So similarly to Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao fight, the Canelo versus Crawford fight is becoming Volume 2.0. I'm going to explain that shortly. The legendary Mexican fighter, Mikey Garcia, who was once called the Floyd Mayweather of Mexico. Mikey was a big deal. The fans and reporters alike were calling him the Floyd Mayweather of Mexico. That's why when Mikey lost to Errol Spence, a lot of people were impressed with how Errol Spence beat him. Errol Spence completely dominated him. So Mikey Garcia knows better than anyone how hard it is to move up two weight divisions. Originally, the Mexican fighter Mikey Garcia was downplaying Canelo versus Crawford fight. He said he don't even want to see it. He's not a fan of it. Crawford is too small. He recently fought at 147. He only has one fight at 154, meaning he's pretty much moving up 3 weight classes. If Canelo is moving down to 160, then that will make sense to make the fight more fair. But for Crawford to move up to 168, Mikey Garcia said the fight is no competition to Canelo. He's pretty much gonna smoke Crawford. That's why he was not a fan of that fight. This is what Mikey Garcia kept saying on multiple interviews, which I'm about to play the clips in a little bit. Just like the reporter, the Mexican reporter on ESPN, Bernardo Osuna. He was downplaying the fight. He said the same things Mikey Garcia was saying, that he don't want to see the fight, this, that, and the third. Why will Canelo fight Crawford instead of David Benavidez? That's the fight, the real fight that the fans want to see. However, the Crawford versus Canelo fight is not a real fight. Canelo is going to win for sure. Bernardo Osuna is not the only one. He's one of many Mexican reporters that said the same thing. Just like Mikey Garcia is one of many Mexican fighters that said the same thing. Until the fight got announced between Canelo versus Crawford, the fantasy became a reality. What was a dream fight became a reality fight on pen and paper. That's when all of a sudden, the legendary Mexican fighter Mikey Garcia and one of the worst biased reporters in the sport of boxing, Bernardo Osuna, they both came out and did a 180 when it came to their opinion and prediction. All of a sudden, now they actually picking Crawford to beat Canelo. This was like deja vu due to the fact that the same thing happened when Floyd fought Pacquiao. Before the fight, everyone was accusing Floyd of ducking Pacquiao, even though it was Pacquiao who was refusing to take the random style drug testing after Floyd sent him 2 offers. Pacquiao turned them down due to the steroid testing. It was until 5 years later when Pacquiao finally agreed to do it, the moment Pacquiao agreed to steroid testing. That's when magically the fight got made. As soon as the fight was announced, everyone changed their opinion on the fight, old media and the fans alike. The race fans, I should say, because everyone picked Floyd and they said Pacquiao is too old. Pacquiao is this, Pacquiao is that. Even though Manny Pacquiao was 2 years younger than Floyd, they were making excuses that doesn't even make logical sense. Just like they already trying to say Canelo is old, even though Crawford is the one who is 4 years older. He's 38, Canelo 34, and it's Crawford who's moving up in weight. 3 freaking divisions, and they still making excuses. Fast forward to the future. Now, the moment Canelo versus Crawford fight got made, everyone is picking Crawford to beat Canelo. Don't get me wrong, there were already like 70 to 30% of the majority of the fighters that were picking Crawford to beat Canelo, just like they were already picking Floyd to beat Pacquiao. But for Crawford, case is more extreme because he's moving up 3 weight divisions. That's why. Anyway, now Mikey Garcia and Bernardo Osuna joined that group when it came to Crawford versus Canelo because we saw it in real time. Check it out. What both Mikey Garcia had to say before and after, and Bernardo Osuna. Check it out.
that fight, hopefully in 2026 or maybe 2027, who knows, not necessarily next year, but it's a fight that at the lower weight classes you need to be making those go-go fights because it's just so exciting, and they're both in the top 5 pound for pound right now, I think.
They're too many weight classes apart, and although the skills, Crawford is one of the best fighters that I've seen. I told him yesterday when I met him up last night there at the dinner, I was like, dude, you're a badass. Like, you've been a badass. You don't always get the recognition because of, you know, politics and boxing and the favoritism here and there. But he truly does have the skills, and he's a great fighter. He's proven it multiple times, obviously. Now, Canelo is, you know, fighting at 168. Crawford just moved up to 154, and he had some trouble with that in that fight. Now, where do you plan on going? 164, 65, 66? Canelo ain't gonna come down to 160.
Yeah,
Canelo ain't gonna come down, you know, maybe 166 max if he accepts. I think Canelo wins that fight based on just the size, you know, power and size. Now, skill-wise, I think Crawford's a better skilled fighter, but the difference in size will be the deciding factor, and that's why I'm not even a fan of that fight. I think Crawford has accomplished everything he had to accomplish from 140, 147, now 154. That's even greater for him. He wants to do something, collect belts at 154, he can attempt that. But there's no money in that compared to a Canelo fight. And Canelo is trying to fight other guys, and you know, at that point it's more of a big fight, you know, for the money that's gonna generate. But as a fight fan, I'm not really a fan of that matchmaking. I'd rather see Canelo move up and fight his career. Super talented with footwork, with speed, with reflexes, counter-punching ability. He's one of the very, very best. But I'm not a fan of that fight.
Canelo Crawford is happening in September 12th in Vegas. Break it down.
I might pick Crawford.
Why?
I might pick Crawford. Smart money will say Canelo is his size, but I don't know. I think I might pick Crawford. He's a better counterpuncher, better boxer than Skull, skilled-wise. He's not as big.
And he doesn't run like that.
He doesn't run, exactly. He's not going to run, so he'll be able to counter a little more often. He can pull it off. I mean, I guess fans want to see that fight. I wasn't excited at first, but sure.
Okay, but let me ask you this.
Does that change your opinion at all going into the Terence Crawford Canelo fight?
It does, just because, look, if we look at that version of Canelo, he doesn't beat Terence Crawford. But then again, we look at the version of Crawford against Mandervov. It wasn't spectacular either. But look, if I'm being honest, Canelo had no legs. Canelo was not throwing punches. There was no pop there. And he had an opponent in Skull who didn't want to fight. Now, if Skull maybe gives you 15, 20% more offense, he could have won that fight. It wouldn't have taken much from Skull to win against that version of Canelo. Now, I've been to Saudi Arabia. It's a rough trip. Canelo was there for 3 weeks, but it's a whole different animal. So if Canelo didn't want to make the excuses in the ring, I'm sure somewhere down the line we're going to hear it was the fact that he's fighting at 6 in the morning. You're getting up at, 1 o'clock maybe to go to the arena. I've called the Naoya Inoue fights, and it does mess up your rhythm. So, when I do him from LA, when he's in Japan, you're talking about maybe checking in the hotel around 7, grabbing something to eat, taking a nap. You wake up at 11:30 for a 12:15 crew call, and you're calling the fights, and you finish, and you're done. And that's the time that Canelo is really going to start. I'm not making excuses for him. He looked horrible, and now maybe we have a reason to look forward to the fight against Terence Crawford, because you always say, or the old adage in boxing says, a good big man beats a great smaller man. That was not a good big man, though. That is the one thing that, Canelo will have to look in the mirror, how he's going to prepare, how his body feels. Are his legs there? Are his reflexes there? Because Terence is no joke. He's not to be played with, because Terence, he's strong. That's what people don't realize. His wrestling background, Terrence Crawford, I've seen him, go toe-to-toe with Andre Ward in our offices, and that dude is strong. So don't underestimate Terrence, but also don't overlook how he performed against Madrimov.
First, they said, we don't want to see Canelo versus Crawford. This is a mismatch. Canelo washes Crawford. As soon as the fight got announced, all of a sudden, they can't stop making excuses, talking about Canelo legs is gone. Really? When did Canelo ever fly like a butterfly and sting like a bee? Did you not watch Canelo versus Lara? That's the same version we saw against William Scope. Canelo has always been the same flawed fighter, but you guys, due to your racially biased feelings, put him on a pedestal higher than Crawford, even though he wasn't. And y'all knew it. Additionally, when it comes to Mikey Garcia, keep in mind that both Mikey Garcia and Robert Garcia are on record stating that Floyd Mayweather is the greatest fighter of all time. Just like both of them also said that Canelo is the greatest Mexican fighter of all time. It's only a chapter, not the whole book, like Floyd. So it sounded like when Mikey Garcia was at first talking about Crawford versus Canelo, he was really praying that the fight doesn't come to fruition because he doesn't want to see Canelo lose to Crawford. Even with all the disadvantages Crawford is under, Mikey doesn't want to gamble and see Crawford beat Canelo because that will be embarrassing and that will hurt his feeling. But more so, we all know boxing is race, nationality, and pride. That's how people look at it. And that's why Mikey had a change of heart like that, because he didn't want to look too crazy and he want to warn the Mexican people. He want to warn his people like, man, we got an ass whooping coming. You guys heard what Mikey Garcia told Crawford. You're one of the greatest fighters of all time. If it wasn't for the bias in the sport of boxing due to the racism and things of that sort, the double standards for the fighters on the coincidentalist, you will be recognized as one of the greatest of all time. But pay attention. Mikey Garcia still didn't want to see Crawford beat Canelo because he didn't want to have a messed up holiday, him and his people. Just like Osuna and Mikey Garcia deep down knew Crawford could beat Canelo, but don't want to see the fight and push for that, is the same reason why the fans did the same thing with Floyd versus Pacquiao and this fight. Because they didn't want to see Floyd beat Pacquiao. They just wanted to run with the narrative that Floyd was scared of this man. He's undefeated, but he ducked this man who could beat him. A fantasy, that's a lie. They did not want to see reality, which is the truth that they did not want to face. I mean, think about it. Mikey Garcia said he's not a fan of the fight. He don't want to see the fight. Size matter. Divisions are here for a reason. And they absolutely right. But for them to think that Crawford can actually do it and beat Canelo and still say, I don't want to see it, that makes -0 sense. If you are a fan of the sport and you believe the underdog, this is like David and Goliath. The little guy Crawford moving up from 147 pretty much all the way to 168 to beat Canelo. And Canelo has all the advantages. Crawford has to fight with the extra weight of 21 pounds. He has to fight Canelo, the judges, the fans, the referees. We all know what time it is. Is Crawford against the world in this case? And you believe Crawford could do it, but you don't want to see the fight? It's my point exactly. Mexican reporters and the Mexican fighters, legendary fighters like Mikey Garcia, share the same opinion and the feeling the fans do. The race fans that don't want to see the fight because they don't want to see their favorite fighter lose, even though he already has all of the advantages. Remember, if Canelo ain't fought Benavidez, you think he would have had fought Crawford if they were in the same division, let alone if this is vice versa. This is why Inouye said y'all crazy, I ain't fighting no Gervonta. This is why Gervonta said, y'all crazy, I ain't moving up to fight Crawford, even though they only got to move up 2 weight divisions, Gervonta that is. But Crawford has to move up pretty much 3, and he's still willing to do it, and he's already the favorite to beat Canelo. This is why Mikey said, Canelo is the greatest Mexican fighter of all time, but he said when it comes to Crawford, he's one of the greatest fighters of all time. All categories. He didn't limit Crawford to a Mexican category because he knows Canelo doesn't fit in the all category. He won't even be in the 100. But when it comes to Crawford, he makes it to the top 5 possibly. That's how great Crawford is. And that's how great Crawford will become if he beat Canelo under these type of circumstances. And that's why the fans didn't want to see it, the race fans that is. For the people that don't know, Bernardo Osuna loved Canelo to death, and he will die to defend Canelo for anything, ducking or whatever. He said Canelo is a greater fighter than Crawford. He said at some point that, and a lot of points, I'm not going to say some points, a lot of points, he said that Canelo is pound for pound number 1 over Crawford. He said that plenty of times. When everyone was unanimous that Crawford was the pound for pound number 1, he still said Canelo was. On ESPN, when Crawford knocked out Porter, everyone on ESPN gave up and said, man, Crawford is pound for pound number 1. This was before Crawford fought Errol Spence. And Osuna said, hell nah, Canelo is still number 1. And then Canelo went and lost to Bivol. But guess what? Crawford is moving up to his 6th weight class to fight Canelo at his best weight class. And Crawford is 4 years older. And now Osuna is picking Crawford to beat Canelo. How does that make sense? That means Osuna was racially biased the whole time with the way he ranked Canelo over Crawford, because he always felt that Crawford is better than Canelo. For him to believe that Crawford is going to beat Canelo under these type of circumstances, that means Bernardo Osuna doesn't just believe Crawford is better than Canelo. That means Bernardo Osuna believes Crawford is 10 times better than Canelo. For him to still pick Crawford to beat Canelo, moving up 3 weight divisions. It ain't like Crawford looked at his best his last fight. And we all know Canelo always looks like this, the way he did to his last fight when he steps up in competition just a little bit. Remember, when he fought Austin Trout at his bullyweight division, how many punches did Canelo throw in the later rounds and the middle rounds? Canelo was throwing 2 punches a round. He will land 2 punches, 2 big punches, and he will stop throwing. Then the judges will give it to him on open scoring. You see, Canelo has always been like this. He never had the best gas tank, and he never dominated any A-level fighter. He always lost to an A-level fighter, or he robbed them. Floyd, Bivol, and Lara. A B-plus level fighter in Gennady Golovkin, he had life and death with him. Plus, he took steroids for that fight. So, we all know what time it is. Canelo has been the same flawed fighter he has always been. Therefore, you can't even make the pathetic excuse that Canelo got old all of a sudden, because that's the same version we saw against Bivol a few years back when everyone was saying that's Canelo best. So I'm trying to figure out, when is Canelo best? When he lost to Floyd, Osuna and everyone ran with, oh, Canelo was too young. Even though, ironically, Floyd was older than Canelo today when he beat Canelo back then. When he took PEDs against Gennady Golovkin and still had a draw to Gennady Golovkin, what was he then? Or when he lost to Lara and robbed him? Or when Canelo lost to Bivol, wasn't he in his prime? Wasn't you guys saying that he can beat Floyd? This version of Canelo can beat Floyd? Then he lost to Bivol. And Canelo still say he's the best till his day. He told Bivol, just his other fight, that, oh, I'm my best self right now. So Crawford is fighting the best of Canelo. And you know what? We're not even seeing the best of Crawford, if we being real, if y'all gonna go by that logic. Because Crawford is 4 years older than Canelo, and he's moving up 3 weight divisions to his 6th weight class at 38 years old. That's unheard of. That's some Sugar Ray Robinson, and that's a fact. That's why if Crawford is able to pull this off under these type of circumstances, he will stamp his name as one of the greatest fighters of all time. This is what old media has always feared. They always push the agenda and the narrative of a fighter from the hopeless being the best fighter in the world. But truly, the facts say, since Floyd Mayweather retired, it was Andre Ward and then Terrence Bud Crawford who picked up the torch as the #1 pound-for-pound undisputed king. They've been knowing Crawford is him. They know Crawford can do something that no one can, and that's turn Super Saiyan in the sport of boxing. However, they tried to overshadow it, which is the reason why the race fans didn't want to see this fight. They knew it all along, but they were lying to the public because they want to hide Crawford's stardom of being the pound-for-pound king all this time from the public knowing it, the casual fans knowing it, that this guy has been the Floyd Mayweather of this era the entire time, meaning the next great. But when God says be, it becomes. You cannot stop God's plan. That being said, go ahead and drop your thoughts in the comment section below, subscribe below, and to be continued on the next episode of Akhi, Akhi TV. Peace out. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.